Yogaboisai, so since Pesach is around the corner, um, we'll talk about the Haggadah Shel Pesach. You know the word Haggadah. What's the meaning of the word Haggadah? So the Abu Draham in the Seder Haggadah Upirusha, he writes V'nikra o Haggadah. This is called Haggadah Al Shem V'higadeto Levincho Bayoim Ahu. Because the pasuk says V'higadeto Levincho Bayoim Ahu V'oid Mipnei Shemagid Bo Inyan Yitzias Mitzrayim. Since we tell in the Haggadah the Inyan of Yitzias Mitzrayim, and Haggadah means telling. Hanisim v'hanifloi she'osei imonu HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'osei azman. V'yesh meforshim, there are those that are mefarish Haggadah shehu loshen hoidah v'shevach. That hoidah is a loshen of praise l'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Al shehoitziyonu me'eretz Mitzrayim. It's not just about telling the story, but it's about praising the Rebbeinu Shalom for the Nisim. K'moishe metargim b'Yerushalmi, like the Targum Yerushalmi teaches, Higadeti hayoim la'Hashem Elokecha, the pasuk in the parasha of Bikurim, Higadeti hayoim la'Hashem Elokecha, zog the Targum shabochis yoimo dein. I praised today the Rebbeinu Shalom. V'hachi tirgemoy Rabbeinu Sa'adye ba'arov. Rabbeinu Sa'adye translated the word Haggadah in Arabic to mean praising. Now, the fact that we refer to this text as Haggadah is already in the Gemara. The Gemara in Pesachim Daf Kuf Tes Vav says, "Ve'ein oikrim hashulchan ela lefnei mi she'oimer Haggadah." So there's the oimer Haggadah. So it's Haggadah. So there's a question that needs to be asked. You know, the Ibn Ezra in Parshas Yisro, on the pasuk Vayaged Moshe es divrei ha'om el Hashem. So the Ibn Ezra says that this pasuk, which is pasuk Tes, really belongs before the previous pasuk, which is pasuk Ches, because in the previous pasuk it already said Vayoshev Moshe es divrei ha'om el Hashem, and the Ibn Ezra says Umilas higid. The word higid only applies to a davar chodosh shelo hizkiroi, and therefore it can't be that the pasuk tes vayaged Moshe is after the pasuk ches, because in pasuk ches he already was vayoshev Moshe as divrei ha'om el Hashem. So therefore the Ibn Ezra says it must be that the pasuk tes really belongs before the pasuk ches, and he brings other examples of things like this. But in any case, the Ibn Ezra said that Milas Higid is always about a Dovar Chodosh, Shelo Yizkiroi. So the question is, how could we refer to the telling of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim every year as Haggadah? We're not being Magid, a Dovar Chodosh, Shelo Yizkiroi La'olam. So truth be told, that in the Dikduke Soifrim and Psochim over there, and Daf Tes Vav, he brings a Girsa, Lefnei Misha Oimer Agoda, with an Aleph. So then it's not the Haggadah Shel Pesach, but it's the Agoda Shel Pesach. It's the legend of Pesach. And so also in Taisus and Avodah Zarah, Daf Memhei with Aleph, Taisus says, the Mazkir, Ba'agodas Pesach, Reb Akiva Koidim Reb Tarfon. So you see that Taisus referred to it as Agoda Shel Pesach. But l'chora it's still shver because it says in the pasuk v'hi gadet lebincha b'yom ahu leimor. No, it's l'chora not a davar chodesh. But the truth is that in pshuta shel mikra, that's not shver, because in pshuta shel mikra the pasuk v'hi gadet lebincha b'yom ahu is coming behemshech to v'hoya ki v'yacha Hashem el eretz haknani v'goyme v'avadeto es avoda azois, and your children will ask you what it's about, and you will tell them. So it's really a first time telling of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. However, Chazal, Amafarish, the pasuk v'higadeto levincha b'yom ahu leimor, as a pasuk that refers to the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim every year, B'Leil Tesvav, as we darshan Ba'avur Zeh, B'Shoshi Yeshmatza Umoror Munachim L'Fanecha, and other drushes that we darshan about the Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim of Leil Tesvav from the pasuk V'Hi Gadet Olabincha. And the question is, according to the Ibn Ezra, that Haggadah is only Shayach in a Davar Chodosh Shelo Yizkira Me'olam. How is the Torah referring to this as V'Hi Gadet Olavincha? Now, the Chor of the Pshat is, as if it's stated in the Mishnah, Pesachim Daf Kuf Tez Zayin, B'chol Dor V'Dor Chayiv Odom Lirois Es Atzmoi Ki'ilu Hu Yotza MiMitzrayim Shnema V'Hi Gadet Olavincha B'Yom HaHulei Me'Bav U'Zeh Osa Hashem Li B'Tzeisim MiMitzrayim. Now, this chiyuv of Lirois Es Atzmoi Ki'ilu Hu Yotza MiMitzrayim, the Chor is not an independent chiyuv that we happen to learn from this pasuk. But the lyrics is Atzmai Kihilu Hu Yotza MiMitzrayim is part of the mitzvahs hasipur, as the Kiryas Sefer on the Rambam in Perek Zayin Halacha Vov says V'chol Zeh Nichlal b'mitzvah Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim B'Leil Tesvav Nisan. That part of the mitzvah of Sipur is that it should be said, it should be told as a personal story. You should be relating a personal experience. You should feel as if Ato Yotza MiMitzrayim, and that's the story that you're telling. And that's Mavur in the Rambam. The Rambam says, B'chol Dor V'Dor Chayiv Adam Laharois Es Atzmoi Ki'ilu Hu Ba'atzmoi Yotza Ato Mishibud Mitzrayim, which means that the Choiva of Liris Es Atzmoi is included in the Chiyuv of Laharois. And the Chiyuv of Laharois, that's the Mitzvah Sasipur. So Lefizeh, we understand that the pasuk refers to the Sipur as V'Hi Gadita, in spite of the fact that the Ibn Ezra says that Milas Higid is La'olam al Dovar Chodosh Shelo Yizkiroi, because really the Haggadah is about the Ba'avur Zeh Osa Hashem Li B'Tzeisim Mitzrayim, and the Yitzia of the Li, the Yitzia of Hu Ba'atzmoi, is really a Dovar Chodosh. I never told this story because I'm constantly experiencing the liberation, the redemption from Mitzrayim, and Memela, I'm saying a new story. Wie der Rambam sagt, Shehu Yotza Ato Mishibut Mitzrayim. I'm saying that I left Mitzrayim now. So that I never said I left Mitzrayim earlier, but now I left Mitzrayim now. This is something new. You know, the Orach Chaim HaKodesh in Parshas Bolok on the pasuk Kel Moitziom Mitzrayim says Omar Moitziom V'loy Omar Hoitziom. Moitziom is l'chora a present tense, and not we don't use the word Hoitziom, which is past tense. Hagam Sheraboy Seinu Zal Omru in Brochas Daf Lamed Ches the Apik Mashma that Moitzi has the meaning of past. Nevertheless, we shouldn't ignore the fact that it's Yosem Mashma L'Shoin Ovar. Im Hoyo Omar Hoitzio. It would be more appropriate to say Hoitzio. V'nira al derech oimrom zal. B'chol dor v'dor chayv adam liris es atzmai kilu hu yotzam mitzrayim. Al kain omru yoidei pnimiyus ha'toira ki kol leil Pesach misbararim koichois hakdusha me'aklipa. Okay, this is not something that we could wrap our brains around. It's not something that we understand, but this is the nusach. Ki kol leil Pesach misbararim koichois hakdusha me'aklipa v'noisofim ba'am b'nei Yisrael. That is an actual Yitzia Mitzrayim that takes place every year on the Leil Tesvav Nisan. V'hu oimroi kel moitzion ki lo Yitzia rishoina bilvad ela b'chol shona moitzion kanizkar. Nu l'fizeh avada, we're telling a new story. It's not old news that's being repeated, but we're relating a current happening. Now, b'pshutoi, the chiyuv of lirois es atzmoi ki'ilu hu yotza mitzrayim is a chiyuv that's only on the night of Tesvav. The Mishnah in Pesachim brings it in the Seder Haggadah of Leil Pesach. However, in the Sefer Charedim, Perik Tes, Ois Kotten Chav Dalit, he writes B'zeh Aloshen, Lizkor b'chol yoim b'levavenu, ki avodim oyinu leparei b'mitzrayim, ba'avodas perach, b'choymer b'levenu, ve'ilu loy hoitziyonu adayin onu uvonenu hayinu avodim, shenema zocher es hayom hazeh sheyitzosim b'mitzrayim, uksiv v'oisonu hoitzi mishom, ukidetanye ba'agoda the Pesach b'chol dor v'dor chai v'adam l'yisas atzmoi, so he clearly says that this is really not only in the mitzvahs hasipur of Leil Tezvov, but it's also in the mitzvahs haschira of every day. Liskar b'chol yom bilvavenu. The chiyuv is that we should relive it every day as if we're leaving Mitzrayim now. And he says, "Upriya machshava hazois." Why is this? Why is this so important? Kidei shelo yachzik ha'odam atzmoi kiben chorin. A person shouldn't be machzik atzmoi kiben chorin. Kidetnam ba'avis ve'ein ato ben chorin. It's interesting how he cuts off the Mishnah. The Mishnah says ve'ein ato ben chorin lipotim imena. Lo yalecha amalocha ligmoi ve'ein ato ben chorin lipotim imena. But he says lo yachzik ha'odam atzmoi kiben chorin. Kidetnam ba'avis ve'ein ato ben chorin. And that's shelo yachzik adam atzmoi. Lo yachzik is like in the sense of a chazaka. You know, a chazaka is the pshat. I don't know, how do you translate into English a chazaka? I mean, it's really like a status quo. It's a default position. It's a status that's assumed to be permanent unless we have proof that it changed. That's a chazaka. But he says, Lo yachzik ha'odam atzmoi kiben chorin. A person shouldn't consider it that his default position is ben chorin. The default position is avdus. He constantly needs to be redeemed from avdus. Ubezoyer parshas bahar, leishtadole basar pikudi doiraisa. The kula avoido ikri. Ke'eved the ishtadol basar more, like an eved that tries with all his ability to serve his master, b'chol madi itzrich, begin the Yisrael ikrun le avodim. Diksiv kili b'nei Yisrael avodim, avodahem. My time me'inun avodim. Begin asher yitzesi yoysom eretz Mitzrayim. Ubegin kach, ksiv be'eser amiron, it says in the Aseret HaDibros, Lebasa diksiv onoichi Hashem Elokecha asher yitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim lemiflach li ke'eved the polach lemori the porik le min moisor with the porik le min maran bishin min moisa with the porik le min maran bishin the alma. So, in other words, the Aseret HaDibros begin with onoichi Hashem Elokecha asher yitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim because the yitzisicha me'eretz Mitzrayim means your status was a status of avdus, and I redeemed you to become an eved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In other words, it's freedom to be responsible. We were free to be responsible to serve the Adon Kol HaOretz. Instead of being Avdei Paroi, we should become Avdei Hashem. So it's Lo Yachzik Atzmoi Ben Chorin. That's what the Charedim is saying. You know, it's al derech, in Yevamos Daf Memvav, it says that if you buy an eved from a nochri, yeah, so Shmuel says, v'tzorich l'tokfoi b'mayim, that when you toivel the eved, tzorich l'tokfoi b'mayim. Zokt Rashi, kishematbiloi l'shem yadus, an eved knani becomes a miktas Yisrael, yeah, kishematbiloi l'shem yadus, tzorich sheyitkefenu, Loseis olav oil meloche b'mayim. Yedei tehei niris ketfilas avdus. Shafilu yoymar hu l'shem ben chorin lo yikon asur ben chorin v'lo yeh mamoshes b'dvorav. And the Gemara gives an example. Ki haide menimin avdei di Rav Ashi boyel atbulei. He wanted to be toivel. Mosrei li halayu l'ravina l'Rav Acha b'rei di rove. Amalahu chazu diminaychu kabe'inalei. You take care of the tvila and be careful because I'm going to be toiveya the eved from you. Ramule aroise betzavre. So when they put him into the mikveh, they put a chain on top of his neck, Arpule v'tzimtzumule. They let it a little bit loose and they were mitzamtzimit. Arpule ki eichi deloy lehev chatzitza. They had to let it a little bit loose in order that it shouldn't be a chatzitza. But tzimtzumule ki eichi deloy likdim v'leim l'shem ben chorin ani toivel. And Bahade the Doli Reishim Amaya, as he picked up his head from the water, Anchule Zulta the Tina Reisha, they put a barrel of tit on his head. Va'amrule Zil Amti Lebe Morach. So, in other words, the tvila of an Evet Knani has to be done in a way that he goes immediately from the mikveh, he goes into the Avdus. And Al Derech Zeh, B'shas Yitzias Mitzrayim, Anoichi Hashem Alekecha Asher Yitzisicha Meretz Mitzrayim. But it's not the pshat that we become muhzik, ben chayrin, but the ben chayrin is really dependent on becoming avdei Hashem. The freedom is for the purpose of being responsible. You know that in Brachas Davdala, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Ezehu ben Olam Haba, ze hasoymech geula l'tefillah. So says the Rabbeinu Yoina, yesh la'ayin v'chi mipnei shesoymech geula l'tefillah. I mean, what's so unbelievable about being Seimer Gula Tefillah? Yeah. You know, by the way, there's a Gemara with Rabbeinu that one day he was Seimer Gula Tefillah, like Pasik Pume Megirs, like Pasik Pume Mechucha Kuliyam. He couldn't stop smiling the whole day. He was so excited. This is just an aside. I mean, what's the pshat? So he couldn't do it every day. I mean, one day he succeeded in doing Smichas Gula Tefillah, and he was so happy all day. Mustama the pshat is that a yid, that his davening is a real davening. He can't just go from one mode into the next automatically. I mean, so he had to really focus and concentrate and bring himself to the level of tefillah. So he wasn't matzliach usually to be Soimer Gula Tefillah, to immediately go into the tefillah from the Gula. One day he was successful. But in any case, the Rabbeinu Yoina, yeah, by us, I mean, it's just about words. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, to be Soimer Gula Tefillah. But the Rabbeinu Yoina asks, so what's so amazing about being Soimer Gula Tefillah? So he says, Hatam shezoichel eschai godel kazem epnei, she'HaKadosh Baruch Hu k'shego alonu, v'hoitzionu mi-Mitzrayim, hoyo lihi yoseinu loy la'avodim. The purpose was lihi yoseinu loy la'avodim. Shenemar, like it says in Parashas Bahar, ki avodai heim asher hoitzeisi oisa me'eretz Mitzrayim. Ubebirchas goal Yisrael mazkir bo she'oso imonu haboirei. The goal. V'hatfila hi avoide. Kidamrinon v'avadetem es Hashem Elokeichem zuhi tfilo. Ukshu mazkir yitzias Mitzrayim. In the Birchas HaGeula. Umispal miyad mare shekemoy she'ha'eved koine oisoi raboi kein hu makir hatoive v'hageula shegoal oisoi haboirei v'shehu avdoi v'oived oisoi. V'kiven shemakir shehu avdoi mipnei shegoal oived oisoi ritzoinu mitzvayis avdim shebavur zeh zoicha l'chai oilom habo. So in other words, every day in the Birchas HaGeula, we're supposed to be experiencing the Yetziah Mitzrayim and the Kabbalah's oil Malchus Shamayim. That's a consequence of the Geula Mitzrayim, and that's the Smichas Geula Tefillah, because Tefillah is Avodah, and Avodah Heim comes from the being redeemed and released from being Avdei Paroi. So it's the same idea that we shouldn't consider ourselves b'chezkas b'nei chorin. We're not in the default position of b'nei chorin, but we're every day a yid is supposed to experience geula, and geula is mechayev smichas geula l'tefillah. Geula is mechayev giving ourselves up to the Rebbeinu Shalom as Avdei Hashem. There's another nekuda in seeing ourselves every day as yoitzim mi'avdus l'cheres. You know, because we've mentioned this before. The Rambam in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Reish Perek Chafei, says, Osur l'dayan linhoig b'sroro al hatzibur u'begasus ruach elo ba'anova v'yir v'chulei. V'chein osur lo linhoig b'hen kalus roish. A dayan is not allowed to treat the people that come to Bezdin with kalus roish, afal pi shehein amei haaretz. V'lo yifsa al roshei amakoidish. He shouldn't step on the heads of the amakoidish. Afal pi shehein hedyotos ushfelim b'nei Avram Yitzchok v'Yakov hein v'tzivos Hashem shehoitzi me'eretz Mitzrayim b'koyach godel uviyot chazok. So we see that the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim b'koyach gadol uviyot chazok is not just a demonstration of the fact that loy hakoyach v'hamemsholo b'elyonim uv'tachtoinim lasleis b'hem kirtzoinoi, as the Chinuch says that it's the Omud Chazak in Yiddishkeit, that he's the Yochel and the Roitze, but it also expresses the Koyach Godel, and the Yod Chazaka also expresses our Chashivas, our greatness, our Chavivus by the Rebbeinu Shalom. And therefore, it's also Linig Bem Kalus Roish, Afal Pishem Ed Yoitis Ushvelim, because they are Tzivos Hashem, Shehoitzi Meretz Mitzrayim, B'koyach Godel, Ubiyot Chazaka. The Rambam is miyusid on the pasuk in Parshas Ki Sisa, where it says, "Vayichal Moshe es pnei Hashem aloykov, vayomer lama Hashem yecher ha'apcha ba'amecha asher hoitzeisa me'eretz Mitzrayim b'koyach gadol u'biyod chazaka." So what is Moshe Rabbeinu trying to say now? Lama Hashem yecher ha'apcha ba'amecha asher hoitzeisa me'eretz Mitzrayim b'yod chazaka b'koyach gadol u'biyod chazaka. How is this episode of Sinas Tam? The Rambam is mefarish that Moshe Rabbeinu is mentioning in his tefillah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mitzvah them b'koyach gadol b'yad chazaka. In this, he's being mazkir lefonav how much the Rebbeinu Shalom was machabev Klal Yisrael and how much he was machshiv them, that he invested, so to speak, a koyach gadol and a yad chazaka to bring them out. But l'chora, that's true about the Dor Yotzei Mitzrayim. That we see that they had such a chavivus by the Rebbeinu Shalom that he took them out b'koyach gadol and b'yad chazaka. But how is the Dayan many generations later supposed to learn from this how to treat the people that are coming to Bezdin? The Rambam says Bnei Avram, Yitzchak v'Yaakov. Yeah, that's a fact. But then he says V'tzivos Hashem shehoitzi me'eretz Mitzrayim b'koyach gadol b'yad chazaka. Mashma that they themselves are tzivos Hashem shehoitzi mi Mitzrayim. Now the pshat is talking that b'chol dor v'dor chayiv adam liris es atzma ki'ilu hu yotza mi Mitzrayim. So it's true that on every yid, in every generation, we say that he's bechlal tzivos Hashem shehoitzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu me'eretz Mitzrayim, because it's a current thing. You know, obviously, just like Mehai Taima, the Dayan is not allowed to be Mekel Roish and be Mezalzel and those that come before him in Bezdin. It's Huadin, Huatam, that a person shouldn't be Mekel Roish and Mezalzel in himself. And he needs to realize that even if he's Taka Shofel and he's an Amoritz, but he's Mibnei Avram Yitzchak v'Yaakov and he's Michlal Tzivos Hashem, Shehoitzi HaKadosh Baruch Hu me'eretz Mitzrayim b'koyach gadol b'yad chazaka. But even that from the B'chol dor v'dor chayiv adam liris es atzma ki'ilu yotzei mi Mitzrayim, that not only strengthens our sense of hakoras hatoiv and gratitude towards the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it's mechayiv us to give all we have for avodas Hashem, but it's also something that instills in us the recognition of how important we are and how important our avodah is. As we say in the Birchas HaGeula of Ve'emunah Kol Zois, what do we say? Ve'emunah Kol Zois v'kayam aleinu ki hu Hashem Elokeinu ve'ein zulasai v'anachnu Yisrael amoy. The faith of Ve'emunah Kol Zois, which is geboit on Yetzias Mitzrayim, that's being discussed in the Birchas HaGeula. What's the emunah? The emunah is ki hu Hashem Elokeinu ve'ein zulasai v'anachnu Yisrael amoy. In other words, so the koyach gadol and the yad chazaka tell us not only about the Rebbeinu Shalom, but it tells us something about ourselves, how important we are, and therefore we should realize how responsible we are. You know, in the Sefer Tanya Perik Memvov, Rebbe talks about this at length. He says, "V'yesh derech yishora lefnei ish shava l'chol nefesh v'korav adover ma'oid ma'oid la'oirer, to awaken ulahoyer and to illuminate oira ahava atkua." To bring out the ahava that's really latent, that's dormant, it's hidden, it's concealed within ourselves, but to awaken it, there's a derech yeshora lefnei ish, that's shava l'chol nefesh, v'korei v'adover ma'oid ma'oid, to bring it to a point of lios me'ira betoikef, oira ke'esh boy eira, behizgalus liboy umoichoy, limsar nafshe la'Hashem, begufoy umoida, bechol leiv nefesh, mi umkedeliba, be'emes la'mitzay, ubefrat b'shas kriyas shma b'chesek ha'mosh yizbar. V'hu. So what's the way? Kashayosim odem aliboy. Mashak Omar HaKosov, Kemayim aponim leponim, Kain leiv ha'odom el ha'odom. Pirush. Kemoishe kidmus vitzuras haponim, she'odom mare b'mayim. Yeah, a person looks into the water, so he sees a mirror of himself. Kain nira lo shom b'mayim oisa, tzura, atzmo. Kocho mamish leiv ha'odom la'odom. Balachas kama v'chulei v'chulei. Balachas kama v'chame, melech godel v'rav. Mare ahavosoi hagdoilo va'atzuma leish hedyet v'nivze u'shval anoshim u'menuvel hamutel ba'ashpe v'yored elov mimkoim kvoidoi v'chulei al achas kama v'chama shetis'oire memela ha'ahava kfula mechupeles b'lei v'hedyet v'hine kechol advorim ha'ele v'keifel achezyon hazeh v'godel yoyse ma'oid b'kiflei kiflaim la'en kates osa lanu elokeinu v'chulei ki iniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu es elyonim v'sasachtoinim Loy bocha bekulam kim ba'amo Yisrael v'yitziom miMitzrayim ervas ha'oretz mekayim hazu am v'vatuma loy al yidei malach v'loy al yidei sora v'chulu el HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'chvayde v'atzmo yorad l'shom k'moy shekosu v'ered lahatziloi k'dei l'karvam elov b'kiruv v'yichud amiti b'hiskashus hanefesh mamish v'chulei v'chulei v'hine b'chol dor v'dor b'chol yoim v'yoim chai v'adam liris esatzme kilu hu yotzim miMitzrayim hayoim and memela, if a person lives that way, he experiences the Rebbeinu Shalom's ava, and the point is the less you feel, the more you feel that you're a hedyet, you're a nivze, you're a shval anoshim, you're a manuvel hamutel ba'ashpe, so you have more of an appreciation. You have more of an appreciation for the Rebbeinu Shalom's chesed and the Rebbeinu Shalom's ahava that was expressed in Yetzias Mitzrayim. It's also more of an appreciation, but at the same time, the Rambam says it's also a lesson that in spite of everything you think you are, you're much more, and you're much more capable, and the expectations of you are much greater than you have of yourself, and you can rise and really be who you ought to be. Because you are Tzivos Hashem, Shehoitzi Oisa Me'eretz Mitzrayim, B'koyach Godel U'Beyodcha Zoke. Okay, anyway, Rabbi Say, so we try to prepare for Pesach. Yeah, Afalo Ifanim, and I wish you all a good Shabbos, Devaila, and all the best. Okay.